Hi, mamas. Welcome back to Life's a Mom. I'm Nicole, and today we're talking about something that so many moms deal with every single day, but often in silence: screens, routines, tantrums, and the emotional load all behind it. Not the Pinterest version, not the expert parenting advice version, the real version. The version moms whisper about in parking lot and after drop off or vent about in DMs. And before we dive into today's topic, I want to start with the Dear Nicole letter that came into my inbox. It honestly, it's honest, it's raw, and it's exactly the kind of thing we want to talk about more. So let me read it to you. Dear Nicole, I need your help because I feel like I'm losing my mind. My husband and I keep arguing about screen time. I don't allow it at all. I've worked so hard to create routines, activities, and structure for our children. But every time I want to go out, whether it's errands, a mom event, or even just a quick break, he immediately puts them in front of the TV. It makes me feel stuck, like I can't leave the house unless I accept something I don't believe in. Like I'm the only one holding the boundaries while he gets to be the fun parent. I've tried explaining it, I've tried reminding him, I've tried offering other options, but he always says it's just easier, and maybe it is easier, but it's not what I want for our children. I'm starting to resent him and feel trapped in my own home. Am I being dramatic, and how can I handle this? From a frustrated mama. First of all, mama, you are not being dramatic. You're being human, and you're being a mom who cares very deeply. You know, we always talk about how screens affect children, but we don't talk enough about how screens affect parents, especially mamas. Because when moms talk about screen time, it's not just no TV, right? It's I want them to learn to play. I want them to develop imagination. I want routine. I want bedtime to go smoothly. Um, I don't want meltdowns later. Uh, I want to feel like I'm doing a good job, right? It's emotional. And yes, a partner turning on the TV every time you walk out of the door will make you feel stuck. Because what you're really saying is, I need you to support the boundaries I'm trying so hard to hold. And what he is saying is, I just need to get through the next hour, right? Two totally different worlds. So here's the part I want you to hold on to here, okay? Your hubby is probably not doing this because he doesn't care. Men think very differently than women, and this is something I've learned in counseling, right? In marriage therapy, all of this stuff. So it's not that he doesn't care. I can tell you that. He's doing it because it's easy, right? And because it works quickly, because he doesn't feel the long-term impact like you do. And I'm sure he probably had a very long week at work. I'm sure that he has a lot going on as well, right? So sometimes it is a quick fix. It's easy to just turn on the TV and have some quiet. So you have to really change your mentality on how you are thinking about this, okay? Men don't always see the ripple effect of a broken routine or, the way screen time affects behavior later or even the meltdowns that show up at bedtime, right? Moms do. I mean, I can't speak for all, but most. So this is why screen time becomes a power struggle in marriages. And this is from talking to many, many moms and dads. It's not about the TV, okay? You have to remember it's about teamwork. It's about shared values, and it's about not feeling like the only one doing the emotional work. So no, you are not wrong for wanting support. You are not wrong for feeling resentment. And you're definitely not wrong for wanting to walk out of your house without worrying that everything you built will unravel the second that you close the door. Okay? And so I am obviously not a marriage therapist, but I think it's important to sit down and set some boundaries on both of you, right? Because I feel that sometimes the dads feel as though they are always the ones getting, you know, bitched at or, complained to, that, and that's okay. Obviously, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it does hit differently when you guys find a time to sit down and you each make a list of your boundaries and what means a lot to you and work on it. And let me tell you, It's not going to happen the first time. It's not going to happen the second time. It's going to take a few times for the habit to kick in, okay? So it's very important to remember not to get frustrated with one another. You are both parents, you both love your children, and you are both trying. You have to remind yourself of that. It is not you against each other, it is you against the problem. So, from a friend to another mama friend, this is my piece of advice. And that is to find time to sit down and for both of you to write out your boundaries and talk about them and see how you can set those expectations. And I hope that really does help a little bit because I can see from experience that's something that's helped many, many couples. But now, this brings us perfectly into today's episode. We're going to be talking about the reality behind the three biggest triggers in motherhood: screens, routines, and tantrums. We're going to break each one down. We're going to talk about why they matter. We're going to talk about why they create tension, why they feel so heavy, and how to navigate them without feeling like you're drowning, okay? So let's get one thing straight. Screens are not evil, okay? Screens are not the enemy. Screens are not ruining childhood because some moms are like, no screens, no TV. And it's like, it is not the end of the world. It is totally okay for you to have your child watch a few minutes of TV while you take a shower, get your makeup done, whatever it is that you need to do, right? As long as you know that they are safe. But screens are powerful, and moms feel the weight of that power. So when a child watches a screen, you're not just dealing with the moment they're quiet, okay? You're dealing with the withdrawal, the overstimulation, believe it or not, the whining afterward, the I want more, the meltdown, of course, when you turn it off, and of course leads to bedtime issues. Also, from research, there is a lack of independent play later on. So, moms know this, right? We see the full picture. Meanwhile, partners sometimes only see, they're quiet for 20 minutes and I can breathe. That's how they see it. But listen, I get that as well. We've all had those moments where TV was the only thing standing between us and a breakdown. But the frustration comes from inconsistency, from one parent holding the line and the other crossing it whenever it's convenient. So here's something I want you guys to hear. Consistency matters more than perfection. And it took me a very long time to accept this because I am a perfectionist. I like things to be a certain way and it's part of my OCD. But no, what I've learned is consistency matters more. You don't have to be like screen free, right? You just have to be aligned. That's very important. And for the kids to see that as well, which gives me a memory. My son, Ben and I, my husband, we are very in sync. We talk about, boundaries, rules, and we respect one another in that way. So if I say no to something, he will say no, and vice versa, right? Because we also want to show our children that we are a team. Mommy and daddy are as one. And it's also, for him to learn that as he gets older. But one time he came to me and he asked me if he can have a cookie. We bought cookies for one of my events and I forgot to put it away. And, we tried to eat very healthy with Owen and, my chef works with us to make him healthy meals, even if like he's eating fish and I have to kind of white lie, which I'm not proud of, but it's the only way I can get him to eat. And I'll tell him that the fish is actually chicken nuggets and she makes it look like real chicken nuggets. But anyways, I left the cookie out. Totally my fault. So he comes to me, he goes, Mommy, may I please have a cookie? And I said, Owen, I don't want you to have a cookie now. You can have one after dinner. Okay, Mommy. Great. I was like, wow, he took it that very, very well. Second later, he goes to my husband and asks for the cookie. Now, my husband did not know that he had asked me already. And he goes, sure, buddy, let me get you the cookie. I come downstairs after my shower and I see Owen eating his cookie. And my husband was in the bathroom. And I was like, Owen, who gave you the cookie? And he goes, Dada said yes. And I was like, what? I said no, Owen. So Ben comes out of the bathroom and obviously I take him to the side because this is not something I would want to do in front of Owen. And I was like, baby, why did you give him a cookie? I told him he cannot have it. He goes, baby, are you serious? I literally asked him. I was like, Owen, did mommy say you can have it? And Owen told him, mommy said yes. So now we have to be very careful and we have to we have to like ask one another before we answer, right? Because we don't know like what, the other one says. So now like when Owen asks me a question, I'll like text Ben. I'll be like, "Hey, did you say he could have this or not?" And then he'll be like, "Yeah, I said he could have it." So I'm like, "Okay." So that's just funny. I don't know. I thought about that. But because, kids, they don't need no screens, right? They need predictability. They need limits that make sense. They need parents who communicate. A screen isn't bad, but a screen, it's used as the only tool that makes everything harder. That's the way I see it as an issue when it's just the only tool, and we don't want that, right? So let's talk routines. Routines are the backbone of mom life. Not because we're controlling, not because we're rigid, not because we're obsessed with schedules, but because routines, they make life easier for us, for our children, and let's be honest, for our sanity. And routines are the reason that bedtime doesn't take 2 hours. And naps usually happen. Tantrums don't happen as often. Transitions go smoother. Kids feel safe, and we feel like we have some control in our world of chaos. But this is the thing, most partners don't feel the impact of a broken routine the way we do. So for me, example, my husband is actually more strict about the no TV, and I am. So, it really depends. I find that there's always one partner that's a little bit more lenient. But at the end of the day, you have to remember you are a team. So sometimes when I need a moment, he understands that like I need it, especially on the weekends when I don't have my nanny here. And so, sometimes when I'm like, "Baby, I'm gonna turn on the TV. I have to go, like, do my skincare." He's like, "Don't worry, honey. I'm gonna take the boys and we're gonna go for a little walk." So he takes them and they go for a walk and then I come back and everything's fine. So it's all about, like, communication and trying to find a balance. It's super important. Um so, if bedtime is a disaster, they might not be the one pacing in the hallway, right? If nap time fails, they might not be the ones dealing with the overtired meltdown. See, my husband does bedtime for Owen, and I do bedtime for my baby, Liam. So, maybe he sees it more. But, if the morning is chaotic, they might be the one packing lunches. They might not be, dressing kids, fighting with socks, navigating tantrums off of no sleep. So to them, to the partner that's open to letting them watch a lot of TV, skipping a nap or watching TV during mealtime is no big deal, right? But to us, like the mamas or the dads or whoever, that's taking, all of the mental load and everything together, it's the start of a domino effect that we're left managing alone sometimes. And this is why moms get so triggered when routines fall apart. It's really not about control. Sometimes people think it's a control thing, but it's not. It really is about survival, right? Um, so tantrums are wild. We all know this. They're loud, they're physical, they're emotional. And unfortunately, they are unpredictable, right? You might cut the sandwich a certain way and your child wanted it cut a different way. And, it's like bloody murder. And your neighbors must think you're hitting your child while you're trying to staple the sandwich back together. It feels that way sometimes. And, they do demand every ounce of patience that you have. And sometimes we don't have that patience. And I get that. Even me, like I said, having the nanny, having the cleaning crew, having whatever I have, I get overwhelmed too sometimes because, my nanny, she works from 7:30 to 7:30. And, when she leaves, it's bedtime. And, sometimes if Ben needs work or something, or I need to do work, like we have to pick up the other one's slack. And we feel it, and that's the hardest time because, see, my son naps for 3 hours on the weekends, but at school, he only naps for 1 hour. So that can make things a little bit more difficult. So we're trying to work on that. But, behind every tantrum, there is something deeper. Okay, we have to remind ourselves. We think when children have a tantrum, it's like, oh my God, they're acting out. But you have to, again, it's mentality, how you think about things. So you have to ask yourself, why is he or she having a tantrum right now? Is it overstimulation? Is it hunger, tiredness, frustrations? I mean, there's so many big emotions. Inability to communicate needs, that's a big one. Toddlers don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to come and tell you, "Hey, mom, I'm really overwhelmed and overstimulated at the moment, and I'm very upset right now." But, that's a big thing. That's a big reason for tantrums, so they just act out. Routine disruption, transitions going wrong, and definitely too much screen time. And this is why, because of everything that I've learned since Owen was a baby, um, we communicate with him like he is an adult. Even now with my baby Liam, like we talk to him. And now, with it takes time. You keep going at repetition, repetition. So when my son used to get angry or he would get a tantrum because let's just say, I don't know, I'm going to pick something random. He wanted a lollipop and I told him no. So I would tell him, I know you are so angry right now. You are so angry because mommy said you can't have the lollipop. I know you're so angry, but you cannot have the lollipop because if you've heard my episodes before, you will know this, but I explained to my son that we have an aquarium in our bellies. And I took this idea from one of the moms I have lunch with every Friday. And she basically, she told me to do this and it's worked. And I'm like, honey, Owen, put your ear in mommy's belly. And our bellies are always working and making all these noises. I'm like, that's an aquarium. And in our bellies, we have fishies. And our fishies get so sad if you eat lollipops before dinner. I'm happy to get you the lollipop after dinner, but your fishies need to eat dinner and I explain it. And people think I'm nuts because he's 2 years old. They're like, they probably have no idea what she's saying, but they listen. And with time, they start to understand. And I explain your body needs nutrients. And honestly, it's really made a big difference. And now it gets to a point where he's upset. He'll be, Mommy, I'm sad. Owen is sad. And I'll say, Owen, why are you sad? Because Owen wanted to go to the park. And Mommy said Owen needs to nap. And he will communicate that. And that's helped dramatically with tantrums. Honestly, he's become an amazing boy. And it took time, it took work. Um, so that's something important, and you might look crazy to people. It doesn't matter. You do what's best for your child, and that's something that's worked for us. And that's why his vocabulary, his intelligence level, his IQ level, we took him to get evaluated just to see, and he's above and beyond. He's doing so well and reading books to him at night, like all these things. It's super important. But going back to what I was saying, here's the part that many partners don't realize. When routines and screen limits aren't respected, moms pay for it later in tantrums, okay? So when the moms are the ones dealing with the fallout, walking on eggshells, trying to calm a child who cannot regulate, it's difficult. So yes, screens, routines, and tantrums can feel like a personal attack because we're the ones carrying the emotional weight of it, or whoever it is. It doesn't have to be just mamas. Let's talk about the real heart of this, okay? It's not that moms don't trust their partners. It has nothing to do with that. It's that moms want support. They don't want shortcuts. We want a teammate. And same with the dads. Same with the dads. We want someone who asks, what works best for the kids? Not what's easiest in the moment. And I know it's so difficult sometimes. I understand that. But you got to think about what's better for long term opposed to short term. So an example, there was a study where someone came in and they came into a classroom full of toddlers and they gave each toddler one marshmallow. There's actually a trend like this where like the mom would give a treat and she would say, don't eat it until mommy comes back. And I did that with my son and he waited till I came back. I was amazed. I thought he was going to eat it. Um, and so basically they told the kids, if you wait till we come back and you do not eat the marshmallow that we had just given you, you will get another marshmallow and then you'll be able to eat both of them. They left the room and then they came back. Some of the kids ate theirs and there's some that ended up waiting. And they were saying that the IQ levels of the children that waited to eat the second marshmallow had a higher IQ level opposed to the ones that ate it. Not saying that, if you did this with your children and they ate it, that their IQ level is no. No, 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 no. It all comes also, with maturity. As they get older, they learn things, and everybody is different. Everybody's on a different pace. Um, But that's what I'm trying to say also as adults. Do we have to say, should I eat the marshmallow now because it looks so good? Or is it better if I wait a little bit and then get two? Right? So that's how we have to think of it. I know that sounds silly because, we're not children, but we really have to think of it like that. We want alignment, we want consistency, and we want to feel like we're not the ones carrying the whole mental load alone because it doesn't feel good, right? We're both parents. We both had partaken in making children, as I make a joke. The dads took 5 minutes and the mom, we took 9 months, but hey, we're both parents, right? And, for many moms, the resentment really starts when they hold the boundaries and they create the structure and they do the research and they follow the routines, right? And they're the ones regulating meltdowns. And then the partner breaks the rules because it's just easier. So it's not the screen, it's not the routine, and it's definitely not the tantrum. It's really just the lack of teamwork. And that's why communication is so important. And to explain that to your partner, because sometimes our partners, they might say, oh, he or she is bitching, blah, blah, blah. Like, why can't I just put the screen? But when you sit down and actually explain things, kind of like I had explained how I do with my son, we all need that. Doesn't matter what age we are. I think it's important to have that open communication and explain things with love. So here's what actually helps, okay? Have that conversation at a calm time, not in the moment, okay? Not during a meltdown and not when you're frustrated. Partners need to understand that it's not about the TV. It is about the behavior, the sleep, and the emotional regulation. Clear times, clear limits, and clear expectations. You can even create a list of like daddy approved alternatives. Or mommy approved alternatives, whoever, just because I'm saying moms, it doesn't mean that the moms are less strict or more strict. It just depends on the dynamic of each couple. Um, but literally, you can give a list that they can reference instead of defaulting to screens. And there's so many things you can find. Give tools, not criticism. This is a big one. Sometimes they break the routine simply because they just don't know what else to do. And they're like, damned if I do, damned if I don't. So celebrate those small wins. When they try, even if it's imperfect, just acknowledge it. I'm telling you, it makes a big difference. And let go of perfection. This is something I had to work on. Not every day is going to go as planned, and not every routine will be consistent. And that's okay. It's totally okay. Nothing is going to happen. So if you are feeling stuck and you're feeling unheard, resentful, or frustrated, I want you to know that you're doing, firstly, an amazing job because just in itself, the fact that you care about this shows that you're a good mom because you care deeply. You are holding the entire emotional structure of your home, and you're thinking 5 steps ahead of every minute. You're protecting your kids' well being, and you're just keeping routines and boundaries that matter. You're not being dramatic, and you're definitely not being controlling, and you're not wrong. You're not. You're carrying the mental load, and that's heavy. But you're also building something beautiful. Your kids benefit more than you know. And listen, with good communication, your partner can learn the support. These boundaries do too, right? You deserve help, you deserve the teamwork, and you deserve to walk out of your house without fear that everything you build will collapse. And you're not alone, not even a little, I promise you. You can talk to other moms and they will attest. So please, mama, just know you're doing your best. Don't be too hard on yourself and give yourself grace, okay? Thank you for spending this time with me today. Screens, routines, tantrums. These things seem small, but they shape the rhythm of our entire day as mamas. And if nobody has told you today, you're doing enough, you are doing amazing, and you're not alone. Thank you for being here. Take care of you, and I'll meet you back here next week on Life's a Mom. Bye-bye.